My first memory of my dad was probably him taking me outside with my first baseball mitt. We had a front yard, we had some pine trees, and we kind of measured off what a pitching mound would be, and I was probably 6, 7 years old, and he'd sit back and I'd just start tossing him some pitches, and that was pretty much it. He was in and out of my life, but the times that were good were good. We had fun together, and we had lots of weird things that I thought were normal that turned out weren't normal. You know, I was thinking about earlier how he'd be gone for a few days, wouldn't see him, then you'd wake up one morning and he'd be on the couch asleep, and that was just normal life. You know, it was fun sometimes and sometimes really hard. So.
Yeah. Do you remember when it wasn't normal, like where you kind of went, wow, this isn't just not normal from a logistics standpoint, this is not normal for a kid's heart?
After giving my life to Christ, I realized how dysfunctional things were in my life, like where I had essentially felt like I was the man of the house because my dad would be in and out. My mom and dad got divorced when I was like 14. So after that, he wasn't around. So, I have a younger sister, and I would always be protective of her and my mom. And one of the most defining, where I said, I'm going to wipe my hands of this guy, was I was probably 17. I was a senior in high school, and my dad came into my house. He would still come over from time to time, and he was just hammered, drunk, and he started picking on me. And at that time, I was bigger than him. And he was just picking on me. And I can remember him being on top of me, kind of just messing around, and I said, don't do it again. And he hit me one more time, and I reared back, and I hit him and threw an elbow and knocked his glasses off to where he had, for like 2 weeks, he had 2 black eyes under, and it was at that point that I said, I think I'm done with this guy.
That this relationship was beyond repair. You'd kind of washed your hands and it was probably done forever. Yeah. So was that true?
That was not true. When I gave my life to Christ, July 4th of 99, there was an immediate reconciliation thought that came into my head. I know it was Jesus, because it definitely wasn't me, but I knew that as much forgiveness as I had received on that day, there had to be some forgiveness I had to dole out to him. And God began through that to do this huge healing process in our life. So much so that I would get the opportunity to lead him to Christ.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, it was it was funny. I'd come to the uprising, the first ever uprising, and he was sitting there watching NASCAR, smoking a cigarette. He had quit drinking at this time because he had been diagnosed with cirrhosis of the liver. So he'd stopped drinking in 2007, but he was smoking a cigarette, watching his NASCAR, and I was sitting in a recliner, and I probably sat there for an hour, and I'm not a huge NASCAR fan, but I'm just acting like I'm interested, and then all of a sudden I go, hey, Dad, I love you. And he was like, I knew he thought something was wrong, like maybe I was dying or something like that. And I said, I love you. And then he said, okay, I love you too. And I just got to share the gospel with him about what Jesus had done. And he responded. He humbled himself. I think we knelt down right in front of his couch, and he prayed to give his life to Jesus. And it was pretty crazy.
It's really amazing.
It's pretty awesome.
Did you ever think you'd see that day?
Not in a million years. It was crazy.
So now you're in a different stage. There's stuff going on with your daddy. So tell us a little bit of what's going on right now.
Yeah, 2007, my dad got diagnosed with cirrhosis of the liver. He had drank from 16 to, I guess he would have been 54 then, or whatever the math is. And he had drank, done lots of drugs, and it had caught up with him. And so in 2007, after he was diagnosed, he quit drinking, stone cold, didn't go to rehab or anything, just stopped. But cirrhosis is not an overly forgiving disease. I mean, it continues to progress. And I guess it was 2 years ago, he had his first major bleed. They talk about how there are veins that just burst because your liver's not doing the right stuff and whatever. Back in January, he had another one. Fast forward 3 months, and he had another one this past week, and it did not look good for a while. He was in ICU, and I can remember his doctor coming in and going, "Hey, sorry, I don't know that there's anything we can do. There's so much blood in his stomach, we can't see with the scope. We're going to go back in tomorrow and see if we can do something." But in the process, the doctor made it very clear that my dad won't live much longer. We don't know how long because of the nature of when the bleeding happens again. He said it could be 6 days, it could be 6 months. And so we had to make some decisions. We had to call in hospice, and this all happened over the course of last week. And he's okay in his heart because he knows he's stepping into heaven, which there'll be no more cirrhosis of the liver or anything like that. And for all the bad decisions he made, in 2010, he made a heck of a good decision. And he's Jesus. So it's tough because Jesus said, "Hey, in this world there'll be trouble." Jesus was not telling us it'll all be peaches and cream once we give our life to Christ. No, you still reap what you sow a lot of the time, and he's reaping the sowing of a destructive lifestyle for much of his life, and to know that we have the hope that Jesus is giving us an eternal victory that does not end in this life, that he'll step into the arms of Christ is a good hope to hold on to. It's a good anchor to have in my life, knowing that, I kind of resign to the fact that I may not see him this side of heaven alive again. I don't know that I'll be able to go down there before he passes, but to know that that when I take my final breath, he'll go on ahead of me is pretty good to know, So.
If he tunes in this week and watches online and sees your story, and you get to talk to him really for the last time now, what is it, by looking at the camera, that you'd want to say to your daddy?
Oh my gosh. Just, Dad, I love you. You know it, and I know it, and I know your body's wasting away, but your spirit is Jesus's. The same spirit that raised Christ from the dead lives in you, and eternity's on the horizon, and that's nothing to be afraid of, because we have hope in the one who went to the cross knowing how messed up we both were, and still willingly laid his life down so we could be free. And all the mistakes you and I have made, the Bible says who the Son sets free is free indeed, and you are free. So it's okay to live in grace and not regret, and to know that whenever you take your last breath, it's not your end, that you're stepping into eternity where there's no more pain and hurt and sickness and disease, and you're stepping into his arms. And I love you.
And you're going to be okay?
Does it look like I'm going to be okay? Yes, I'm going to be okay.
You're going to be okay.